My name is Robin Dragonrider, and welcome to the first episode of Good Fanfiction Theater. You may have seen I just uploaded Bad Fanfiction Theater. That's actually uploading as I record this. Good Fanfiction Theater is just the opposite, where I showcase amazing fanfiction. Now, this first one is going to be quite a while because it's a 5-part series done by a friend of mine, Lady Norbert, who has inspired me greatly in many ways and is the one who inspired me to do good fanfiction and not just bad fanfiction. Now, this is a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen fanfiction called The Private Diaries of Elizabeth Quatermain. And it's centered around an original character named Elizabeth Quatermain, the daughter of Alan Quatermain, Sean Connery's character from the movie. It is based on the movie, not the comic. And despite the way it sounds, it's not a Mary Sue. It's a very well-rounded story. And this is Chapter 1. Editor's note. Although Miss Quatermain was in the habit of keeping a personal diary for several years prior to 1899, it was in that year that she first made the acquaintance of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Therefore, we have elected to only publish the relevant diary entries from July 1899 onward. 12th July 1899. There was a letter from Father in the post today. It was the first word I've heard. I'm sorry, I can't read. It was the first word I've had of him since the new year, which in and of itself was nothing so unusual. He is not in the habit of writing letters, but this particular letter was very strange, even by Alan Quatermain's standards. Dear Elizabeth, you are no doubt are aware of the strange and terrible things which are happening throughout Europe. I trust that you are well and safe. I have been asked to help put an end to this destruction before the world is brought to the brink of war, and I have agreed to the mission. I dare not say where I am to go when I leave Kenya, in case this letter falls into unfriendly hands, but there is something which I need you to remember, in case I never return, and it is this. In the City of Lights, where Our Lady cradles the body of her son, you will find the key. The bent Q can help you locate it. You alone can I entrust with this secret, and should the day come when you learn that I have failed on my mission, you must go and recover the key. You will know what to do when you find it. Godspeed, my daughter. Your father. I find this cryptic message most unnerving. The City of Lights is, of course, Paris. Everyone knows that. But Our Lady, that suggests a place of religious significance, and I have never known the great Alan Quatermain to rely very heavily on faith. Of what key does he speak? What in the world is a bent Q? Worst of all, I have a lingering suspicion that this will be the last letter I will ever receive from my father. Whatever mission he's about to undertake is going to be his last. 2nd August 1899. My worst fears are confirmed. Father is dead. I received the following telegram from Prime Minister Salisbury today. My dear Miss Quatermain, today I received communication from some of the residents of Her Majesty's colony in Kenya. It is now my sorrowful duty to inform you of the passing of your father, Alan Quatermain. He was a fine man, and his legend will live on after we have all departed this soil. Please accept my sincere condolences. It pains me to burden you with such matters at this difficult time, but you are no doubt aware, the residence known as Solomon Manor was a gift to your father from His Majesty, the late King William, uncle to our I cannot read, I am so sorry. Uncle to our beloved Queen Victoria. Your father, regrettably, left no will and testament prior to his death, and as a result, the property and its furnishings are being repossessed by the British Crown. I can give you until the end of the present month to make the needed arrangements for your relocation. There followed a list of the items which he says are part of the manor property and must be left behind once I have vacated the premises. I found the whole letter extremely distasteful. I cannot say that it particularly startles me to know that father left no documented will. As he told me on that last visit, Africa will never let me die. Undoubtedly he thought he would live forever. I am much aggrieved by the speed of which our government intends to reclaim ownership of my home. It seems most disrespectful to make me rush through the obsequies of proper mourning in order to move to new quarters. I do not even know where I will go. I have no family left and no fortune of my own. With few exceptions, everything that the Crown will allow me to take can be packed into 4 trunks. The household servants are expected to remain until some new aristocrat takes up residence here. I have a few small jewels which were the personal property of my mother, which I suppose I shall have to sell in order to provide my own maid with severance pay. Heaven help me, why must I be bothered with such trifles at this time? My father has died, and the Prime Minister did not even mention making arrangements to have the body brought to London for proper burial. I do not suppose he simply vanished into thin air. Alan Quatermain may not have been much of a father, but he was the only one I had, and I loved him as much as he let me. I must retire now to the chapel to pray for his soul. 13 August 1899. A strange meeting with strange persons. Solomon Manor was today visited by the most peculiar assortment of people ever to cross the threshold. These, then, are the current members of the something called the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, though one is a lady, and it was alongside them that my father fell in battle. He, too, was a member. The servants showed them into the blue sitting-room and brought tea and biscuits, but I had to dismiss them before my guests would speak of their intentions in coming. There were 5, all looking somewhat grave and uncomfortable. They apologized in not finding me sooner. Father typically had never mentioned me to any of them, and it was only a chance comment from one of his friends in Kenya that alerted them to the existence of a Quatermain daughter. Once they knew where to find me, however, they had come to London with all due speed and diligence to pay their respects. "Please," I said, "tell me how my father died. Tell me what happened." I was dressed in black, of course, in proper mourning, but it was a while before I realized that so were all my guests. They, too, were grieving for the loss of my father, their comrade in arms, and I could not help but warm to them as I began to realize how much they had respected and liked him. They told me their odd tale, though I suspect they left out many of the details in order to spare me. His death was honorable. He took a fatal knife wound when he turned his back on the enemy in order to save the life of another. Their mission, to stop one bent on starting a global war, had succeeded, and they all agreed that they owed a large measure of their success to father. When I was in school, I was taught to observe much and say little, so here I will record my observations about my 5 visitors. The first to make his name known to me was the legendary Captain Nemo, commander of the Nautilus and one-time terror of the seas. He was dressed in the splendid garments of his native India, though, as I have said, all in black. I would put his age near that of my father, to judge by the lines on his bearded face. His manner was extremely formal, with a military crispness, but his tone was warm and sympathetic. I think he and father probably got on well together. The lady of the company is Wilhelmina Harker, the celebrated English chemist. We had never been formally introduced, but I know I have seen her here before today. She is tall and very graceful, with a soft voice and sharp eyes. Though she was no less cordial than the rest, there is something about her which makes me uneasy. The others call her Mina. The shy red-haired man was none other than Henry Jekyll, the doctor of renown. I was impressed to meet him, but also very puzzled, for I had heard that he was dead. He had a kindly demeanour, though slightly nervous, and I found myself wondering what purpose he and Miss Harker serve in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I have no idea what my next guest looks like, for the man is invisible. Though everything I was ever taught would have me disbelieve it, the fact is that Rodney Skinner is completely transparent. He wore a black suit and black-tinted glasses, and he had smeared some form of white cream all over his head and hands in order to be somewhat visible. He is quite irreverent. I honestly believe that were he introduced to the Queen herself, he would salute her with a merry, "Cheers, ducky." But there is something refreshing and enjoyable about such a cad, so long as nothing disappears from the house during his stay. He is most open and honest about her, being, as he said, a gentleman thief. The last of my visitors is also the youngest, although I am not precisely certain. I believe we are near of the same age. Special Agent Thomas Sawyer joined the League shortly after my father did. He hails from the United States, where he is a member of the elite Secret Service. He has a rather uncontrolled mop of blonde hair, which is always falling in his face, very much unlike the style here in London just now. Agent Sawyer seemed the saddest and most heavily grieved of all the group, which is fitting, since it was while saving his life that my father had taken his mortal wound. He apologized to me personally for that, though I cannot imagine that there is anything requiring forgiveness. I have never met an American before, though I have heard much of their uncouth manners and disregard for propriety. But if all Americans are accurately represented by the one currently under the roof of Solomon Manor, then they must be an amiable breed, for Agent Sawyer is as pleasant as one could wish. He is not so cheeky as Skinner, but neither does he exude the formality of the others. Tea time was well over before they had finished telling me everything, so I invited them all to supper and to stay for a few days. There are many guest rooms here, and I desired to make good use of the house while I still can claim it as my home. Besides, I wish to know more of my father's companions. They all call me Miss Elizabeth, all except Skinner, who has given me the less desirable appellation of Bess. I decided to tolerate it from him, as I sense he could not be so dissuaded even if I tried. Tomorrow I will speak to my guess of my father's last letter, for I believe that he trusted these people, and they can more likely make sense of the puzzling instructions he has sent them. Perhaps, too, they can make suggestions as to what the key he mentions unlocks. If their wish is to go to Paris and attempt to solve the mystery, I will consent to parting with the letter. And that'll do it for episode 1. That's not all of chapter 1, but my voice is starting to give out a little bit because I've already recorded 1 episode of Bad Fanfiction Theater today. As always, you can submit the fanfiction you'd like me to read to badfanfictheater@gmail.com. It'll be a while before I get to another good fanfiction because I'm busy with this right now. But, by all means, submit away. I'm Robin Dragonrider, and I will see you next time.